Welcome, Carla. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I've been looking forward to our conversation because we are going to talk about how to lead a fulfilling life with purpose. And each one of us can do with understanding how to live a fulfilling life and with purpose. So, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. We are going to get into this topic, but why don't we start with understanding a bit about you? Tell us, what is your story?
Thank you. It's funny because this is a question that I think everyone gets asked, who are you? Like, who are you? But it's very easy to say, I'm kind, I'm funny, I'm generous, insert any words you can think of here. But by thinking about it from a different perspective and knowing that you were going to ask me that question, I've actually spent some time to really dig deep and think about who is Carla as opposed to just who am I? And I feel like when you put that spin on it, especially when you put your name in it, because I'm the kind of person that doesn't like being first named very much. So when you put that spin on it, I found myself asking, what is my legacy so far? What do I want my legacy to be? And what is my purpose right now? And I know that's huge, but don't worry, I'm gonna put it into a nutshell. So essentially, as a person, I would always classify myself as quite shy, quite withdrawn. I was always the person that was different from everybody else. I thought differently, I behaved differently, I dressed differently, I looked different. And I always had these things going on in my head. And as a result, I kind of ended up with these belief systems of my voice doesn't matter. I'm just another person amongst the billions that are out there. And I existed to follow societal rules, and you get told what to do, you get told how to be, how to behave. And I worked for several companies which, they tell you, be yourself, whatever that means, be yourself. But you also have parameters within that, you have boundaries. So you can be yourself, however, you've still got a reputation of the company to fulfill. You've still got values to withhold and withstand and showcase to whoever else is in the company. And I think reflecting on all of that has really made me think. I was made redundant just over 18 months ago now, for the second time in 2 years. And it hit me really, really hard. I've suffered with anxiety and depression. I don't like using the word suffer, but at the time, that is how I was feeling. And they really dominated my life. But it forced me, combined with then going into lockdown shortly after, it forced me to spend time with myself and discover who I am, what I want, what I need, the kind of people that I needed in my life as well. And up until that point, I had been, and still am, like it is a habit that I do slip back into. I'm very aware of that. But I was always a people pleaser. I was always the kind of person who was, how are you today? How are you feeling? Tell me more about you. Let me help you. And I was so focused on everyone else around me that I neglected myself. And I think I've done that pretty much my whole life up until lockdown forced me, when I was living on my own, to be with myself. So now I want my legacy, and I'm building my legacy to become the reverse of those beliefs. So I'm focusing on, I do have a voice. And like right now, I'm sharing that voice with you. And I'm so grateful that you have a platform for me to be able to do that, and that we've connected to be able to. This is the first kind of time that I'm doing that. So it's taken me a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
courage to be here today, and I'm so grateful. And I'm building my confidence around my voice does matter, and everyone has a perspective. Everyone's voices matter, but I'm included in that. I'm also building the belief change around the fact that I'm different from everyone else. I always thought this was a weakness, but actually now, and I'm realizing I don't want to work for a company again. Like, I want to be solely responsible for my own happiness, my own monetary income, my own life, so to speak. I don't want to be controlled anymore, and in this kind of confined society that we find ourselves in. And I really want to inspire other people. That's what I believe my purpose is, to do the same thing. Don't just get stuck in the dark places and in the dark tunnels. One of the beliefs that I've discovered from being in those places is there isn't always a light there, but when you do find the light, I believe that it's you. It's a future you looking back and cheering yourself on to get to that place and find yourself at the end of that light. And the journey will be hard. It will be very, very hard, but it's entirely possible. And that's what I want to do now, and that's what I believe my purpose is, to inspire other people to do it, because we all can. You've just got to believe that you can. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, that's, for me, that's kind of my life and my head in a brief description. So
What an inspiring story, Carla. I'm just taking a moment to let it all sink in, because you spoke so many amazing things there. You talked about impact. You talked about being different. Were you the weird kid?
Oh God, yeah.
I relate to
Yeah.
that. I was the
Yeah.
weird kid too.
Yeah, when I graduated university, I genuinely at the time graduated thinking I don't have any friends. Like, I had one consistent, and still have that one consistent person in my life who has been there through thick and thin, but everyone else has come and gone, come and gone, come and gone. And I grew up performing as well. So I was on stage from the age of, well, I was on stage from the age of 2, but that's when I started dancing. And I followed that through college and university. So when I graduated at 21, the life that I knew was people who were typically backstabbing and people who were overly confident, and that just wasn't me. Like, I'm quite a humble person, and at that point I didn't know where my strengths and weaknesses and what all this kind of analysis of the self was, because I was too busy wrapped up in not belonging and not feeling like I was part of the popular crowd or the people that were making it and all this kind of stuff. So I found that really difficult. But on the flip side of that, I'm now in a situation where the friends that I do have and the people that I have in my life, I'm so, so grateful, because I have quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And I find like there is a place when you realize that's reality. The more people that you have around you, the more pressure there is to be a certain way or to be a certain version of yourself. And in that part, we lose who we are. Whereas actually, if you surround yourself with people, my belief is that if you surround yourself with people who are meaningful in some way, shape, or form, and they have purpose to be in your life, then you'll thrive and you can be yourself. So yeah, I agree. Long story short.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
We are going to talk more about your story and what you do, but I want to share with you that we have a live audience building up here. Adrian is here.
Excellent. Hello.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you for joining us live. Beth is here and Leah is here. So we have 3 people, at
Wonderful.
least 3 people who are watching us live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us live. Adrian is saying, powerful sharing, great live. Thank you, Adrian. And Leah is saying, thank you for sharing, Carla. Totally feel you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think this story of being different and trying to fit in and not really fitting in, and embracing who we really are, that is being different, that is a story of so many people, and I know so many coaches who have that story.
Yeah, for sure. The more people that I network with and meet, the more I believe it's normal to feel abnormal and to feel like you don't fit in. And it's actually comforting. Like, the more people that you find like yourself that have had those beliefs and still have those beliefs, the more you can relate to it, and the more you can feel like there's a weight being lifted off your shoulder.
Yes.
Like, you're not alone. That is so powerful, to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yes. This group that I run, it has a huge focus on building impact and legacy. In fact, those are the 2 words on the group banner image that I have. So when you talk about legacy, when you talk about impact, I totally get it.
Fantastic.
You are my kind of weird here.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, my kind of weird.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that you worked with some amazing companies in the past, and now you are owning, being a business owner, and setting up your own coaching practice. How amazing.
And terrifying.
And terrifying.
But yeah, definitely, for the most part, exciting and rewarding beyond belief. Yeah.
Yes.
It's by far the most rewarding so-called job. I don't really like calling it a job. That's not really how I see it, but it's the most rewarding position, shall we say, that I've ever had. And the fact that I've created it for myself, I don't think that's hit home yet. That's still processing. That's still happening. But yeah, thank you.
And that's the bit I would like to emphasize for anyone who's watching this and wondering if they should take a leap and set up that business or follow that passion, follow that dream, that there are others who have done it and you can do it too.
Oh, definitely.
And
Definitely.
like Carla said, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
It's a powerful process.
Yes, it's a powerful process. Yes. So, Carla, talk to us a little bit about what do you mean when you say you help people live a fulfilling life with purpose?
It's a great way of, I think, putting things in perspective. If we break it down, the word fulfilling implies that it's enriching, it's positive, it's grandeur, maybe it's fantastic. And I think a lot of positivity gets associated to fulfillment, which is a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. But when we look at fulfillment as a big picture and we take just the word full, for example, it's encompassing everything. We can't have the good without the bad, realistically. Life is a roller coaster. We're human beings. We have emotions. We're very emotionally attached. Naturally, that's our instinct. And those emotions can be good, can be bad, can be everything in between. So it's about being accepting of ourselves, those around us, our experiences, our decisions, be them good, bad, if you want to classify them as good and bad. Personally, I prefer to just look at it as a choice. And at some point in life, I made that decision, whether it failed or it succeeded, either way, I've learned from it. So from my perspective, when we look at full and then put that into the context of fulfilling, it's being embracive of everything that happens in life, that we choose, that we don't choose, and everything that comes and goes and stays. When I think about purpose, it's about being present and about the now. So for example, like I said, I believe my purpose right now is to inspire people and to help people realize that, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you are that light. You are that person that's generating that glow, or whatever it might be, however you see it. Everyone's vision is different. But within purpose, that's going to change throughout your life. What's your purpose now probably wasn't what your purpose was 10 years ago, and it won't be what it is in 10 years' time. So when you talk about a fulfilling purpose, it's about accepting the now, accepting who you are, accepting what you want to change, accepting that to get to where you want to be and who you want to be is a process, it's a journey, and that will continue to grow and evolve as you get older.
Wow. So we are talking about unconditional acceptance of everything that's going on in our life, everything that's happening to us, everything we are doing, the conscious and the unconscious decisions we are making, all of it. That's the first aspect to it. The second is recognizing that our purpose changes. 10 years ago, my God, I had a completely different life 10 years ago. I used to work as an employee in the corporate world. That's a very different life I had. It was a good life, but it was very different from what it is now. And that the purpose changes with time and depending on where we are. There's something you said that was so beautiful when you talked about the light at the end of the tunnel, and that you help people realize that they are the light. Talk to us a bit more about that. That was so delicious.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sure, of course. So from my perspective, I have experience with anxiety and depression. They are two things I've been diagnosed with, so to speak, and two things that I've learned to live with. And I intentionally say learn to live with as opposed to overcome. I'm very passionate about language, and you often hear a lot of people saying overcome anxiety, overcome depression, overcome PTSD, and actually they're disorders that you don't overcome, you learn to live with them because they will recur. So my own experience with depression is, I guess, what a lot of people do talk about, which is darkness. And there's no other way to explain it. Like every single person that I've spoken to and have helped that has depression talks about it as a dark place, because that is how it feels. You feel very trapped and enclosed, and like everything around you doesn't have hope. everything around you just is a bit empty, and it just doesn't really exist. And it's scary. It's really, really scary. And especially when you're down in that pit or in the tunnel, or however it is you envisage it, it can be hard to actually try and find any crack of light. And the light gives you hope and gives you faith. And when you finally see that and you come out the other side, which is something I've now done 3 times, and I can kind of, in my head, I can think about it so specifically to be able to quantify into 3, which a lot of people kind of say, oh, that place, that place, that place. But for me, it's something I overcame and let go of. And I did it again, and I did it again. And the chances are that I'll be added to as I get older. You know, it's not something that will just stop. But every time I've come out of it, whether that be through cognitive behavioral therapy or working with a coach or a therapist, at the end of it, at the end of that process, I've looked back and I've gone, how did I even get there? And actually, big picture, I did that. I got myself out of that place. Yes, I had help. I had someone to guide me, but they didn't do it for me. It was on me to do my homework, to do the things that I needed to do and work at it every single day and find that discipline to be able to pull myself out of that darkness and into the light. So when I look back, I think, you know, it's a proud moment of saying, I did that. I achieved that. And actually, if I was to be able to time travel in some way, it's not possible yet, but maybe one day, if I was able to time travel, you know, and people ask those questions, if you could talk to yourself in a year's time, what would you say? I would just be honest and be able to say, you will get yourself out of that. You will do it, and you'll get yourself to where you need to be. So that's my vision of that anyway.
That's remarkable. That's remarkable. So when we are in that space, when we are in that dark space where we feel so stuck,
Mm.
what are some of the things we can start doing so that we can start finding that light? And yes, it is great once we have made that journey, we have reached the end of the tunnel, we can look back and appreciate that we have
Mm-hmm.
done it. But for somebody who's so stuck,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
The first part in my experience, both from myself and helping others, is acceptance. When you're in those spaces, you're not thinking clearly. You know, we're very much limited and blinded by whatever it is that's got us there. So the first thing to do is find presence, be finding present moments, and whether that be through, for myself, meditation tends to help. So does being active and just getting out into nature. You know, I said to you before we came on here that I've moved to Scotland recently, and that's one of the reasons I did that, because I know how powerful it is to just connect with grass, connect with trees, be able to see mountains in the distance. You know, just connecting with the now and the things that are happening in this present moment. And by doing that, by accepting that, you know, to a certain extent, the grass you're running your fingers through is green and it's maybe a little bit damp, and the air around us, the sky is blue, but it's a bit windy. By accepting and just being present in those tiny little details, it starts to bring us back to life. And it starts to almost revive a little spark inside of us, because at our core, we are natural. You know, we are designed to be in a world of exploration, in a world of discovery, in a world of curiosity. We're not designed to be in this Monday to Friday 9 to 5. You know, get yourself a partner, get yourself married, get yourself having kids, have 4 dogs, you know, whatever it might be. We're not designed to live that life. We are designed to live in the present moment and to be aware and to share that with everyone else and empower each other to be bright sparks. Well, that's my belief. But yeah, I think it definitely starts with acceptance and being present in the now. And when you're present, you can then build, just baby steps, build up from there and build yourself a ladder out of the pit, to get to where you want to get to, which ultimately is getting better, I believe, and healing.
Yes. Mm. Yes. I think one big thing that acceptance does is that that it takes our focus away from that fighting mode, which
Mm-hmm.
can be so draining and exhausting in
Mm-hmm.
itself. Because if you're fighting against something, then that's, I find that exhausting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And you know, I'm sure you know about the fight or flight.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with that. For myself, when I've personally been in the really bad spaces, the depression, my anxiety's been there too. So, you know, you've got your anxiety going, oh, what's going to happen in the future? What if, what if, what if, what if? And then you've got your depression saying, but this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. And I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't belong. I'm not worth it. And sometimes life isn't worth living. You know, sometimes you do get into that space as well. And that's scary. It's really, really terrifying, especially for myself. I experienced that from a kind of a third party perspective. You know, I remember laying in bed one day thinking that I didn't want to be here anymore, but I wasn't saying that in my head. I was looking at myself sitting on the bed thinking, why are you thinking that? That's not you. You know what you want to do with life. You know who you are. You know you can be happy. So why are you feeling that way? So it's a very dissociative experience. And yeah, it's very, very scary. But for myself, when I found myself in those moments, that is the deepest I've gotten to. And that's when I know I need help. That's when I know I need to reach out and say to anyone, help me. And then I can start moving forward.
Yes. Yes, and reaching out for help, I always like to emphasize this. It doesn't mean that we are weak.
God,
It
no.
doesn't mean that we are weak. It only means that we care enough, that we have mustered our courage to reach out to somebody and ask for help. So people, please, please, if there is one thing that you take away from this discussion today, let this be it. Reach out for help when you need it, because there is no glory on in doing it yourself. There's no additional glory, there's no additional worthiness just because something is harder. So reach out for help, people. I cannot emphasize this enough. And we have some comments coming in here. Beth is saying, very inspiring, Carla.
Thank you.
I concur. And Adrian is saying, great interview. I would love your perspective, Carla. What new story can we start telling ourselves to recognize our unique value and power? And, well, those are two questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, I would love your perspective, Carla. What new story can we start telling ourselves to recognize our unique value and power? And the second question is, and what can we do to start believing that what we say matters?
Well, that is powerful. I'll probably ask you to repeat the second question in a minute when I've answered the first one because I'll have forgotten what it is. So both fantastic questions, really fantastic. So when it comes to our value, I want to focus on the word value there, because for me, value is something that I never considered. It's something that I actually only really became conscious of when I did a life coaching course last year. It's something that it just slipped by. It wasn't something that I'd ever sat down and thought, what do I value in life? What do I appreciate? And it was only when I started learning exercises around finding your values that I was like, hang on, I've never done this. I've never in my life done this. And I didn't believe that I could help someone else through that, having never done it. So I did it. And when you sit down and you have your values on the paper in front of you or whatever it might be, it gives such a huge perspective as to the why behind your life, your own personal life, because everyone's values are different. Of course, we all overlap with certain things like family or career or whatever they might be, but the ones that are really digging deeper, things that are, for example, one of mine is that I love to learn, and part of my learning is networking with people and meeting strangers and talking to people and connecting and having those conversations that I wouldn't be able to have otherwise, or wouldn't have instigated for any reason. So behind value comes purpose, kind of coming full circle here. I realize as I'm saying this, but you do find value and purpose come together. And when you know your values, you want to make an effort every single day to live by them. So one of the things that I have is I have in another room, I have my values written up, and I have each of them on separate sticky notes. And I look at those every single day. And if I'm not at home, I have a picture of them on my phone that I look at every single day. And by looking at my values every single day and reminding myself of that, I remind myself every day that I have purpose. And that gives me a reason to live, a reason to work hard, a reason to be here, and a reason to strive to be the best version of myself that I can be every single day. So I hope that answers your question, but that's my own perspective on that. So
I think what you said there was so beautiful and so powerful, Carla, because you talked about values and you talked about integrating our purpose, which should ideally translate into the work that we do and how we live our life.
mhm.
And you talked about bringing the two together, the purpose integrated deeply and intricately with our values. And I think that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what would you say are your top 2 or 3 values?
Oh, you're going to make me choose. No, I like that because it's a challenge and I do love a challenge. So my top values are, there's 9 of them. So whittling it down to sort of 2 or 3 is tricky. I'm not going to lie to you. I would say one of my values is curiosity, one of my top ones. For me, curiosity teaches so much. I think one of the things that we lose from childhood going into adulthood is the ability and the courage to just ask questions and not be afraid to. If someone's feeling a certain way, not being afraid to ask why they feel that way, how they got there, what's influenced this feeling, and hoping that you can have that conversation and get the answers to learn something. And learning something as well doesn't necessarily mean, or I don't think it necessarily means that it's learning something new. Like, even if you're hearing something again, all that's doing is solidifying what you already knew. So there's no bad thing in that. The second one. I think I would go with relationships. I value people so much. And I'm one of these people that if someone says, oh, you love animals, does that mean you don't like humans? And I'm like, no. I love both equally, which is fairly rare to come by. If someone says they're an animal person, they typically say, yeah, because they don't like humans, they answer back or something like that. But I love that. I really love it when people question me, when people challenge me. So to have relationships with people who have a different opinion to me, and we can have a conversation and try and convince each other that we're right, but then end up on a plateau where you're like, actually, I just respect your opinion. And to have those kind of relationships where you just have that like unspoken respect for each other and unspoken love for each other, that you can just belong in this massive world with billions of people and have that closeness with someone and with other people. So I think curiosity and relationships would be my top 2. They mean a lot to me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you for asking that. That got me really thinking.
Well, that ties into the whole acceptance thing that you have been talking about, isn't it? Because if we aren't curious and if we aren't focused on relationships and believing that we can coexist
Mhm.
without having to agree with each other, then we wouldn't really be able to come from come to a place wherein we say, oh, it's
Mhm.
okay to be however we are.
Yeah.
So you've been talking about acceptance and you've been talking about living that fulfilling life. And I think curiosity and focus on relationships, they are so intricately, yeah,
Mhm.
involved there.
Yeah, I agree. I like that you found that in what I was saying as well. Admittedly, I wasn't the kind of person that was just accepting of people, not even too long ago, really. I was the kind of person, because I was a people pleaser, that wanted to make everyone happy and believe that everyone was good. I tried to always look for the good in people. And it's not that there's people that there isn't good in, that's not the case in any way. But for such a long time, I kind of had this filter on and this kind of blinkers like horses have. And I was blinded by find the good, find the good, find the good, find the positive. And then I suddenly had this kind of crash moment where I thought, oh, okay, there are bad people in the world. There are people who can negatively influence me. But at the same time, it took me some time to then realize, but that's okay. I don't have to have those people in my life because that relationship doesn't work for me. So now I have friends and a relationship, and my family that I'm close to, they're there with a purpose, and I reach out to them when they need me and I need them, but with purpose. It's not just a small talk conversation, if you like. So there's always reason behind that, and accepting them just fully and truly for who they are, flaws and all. We all have flaws. None of us are perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, I don't think. So yeah, I think it's important to just be accepting and be aware.
Yeah, definitely. There is something beautiful that Adrian touched upon when he asked you this question, and he said, what new story can we start telling ourselves? And that's such a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because everything that we believe in, this is what I like to say as a story coach, everything that we believe in is nothing but a story that we have acquired from the world around us, because when we came into this world we didn't have any of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying, talking about choosing with purpose, complements the concept of story so beautifully, Carla, because we have the power, we have the choice to choose which stories we subscribe to, which ones we drop, which ones we rewire.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our own choice, and we can make that choice with purpose.
Definitely. Could not agree more. Yeah.
Now's the time for question number 2 from Adrian.
Go for it.
What can we do to start believing that? What can we do to start believing that what we say matters?
That what we say matters, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, what we say matters.
That is a very good question. I think it's got to just start from within. Like I've said a lot about accepting other people for who they are, but you've also got to accept yourself for who you are. And when we reflect inwardly, which I've been doing a lot of lately, you learn so much. And when we start to create our own stories as opposed to just accept, I think that's where empowerment and self-empowerment can be a really strong core, can be a really strong basis. Personally, I don't think I would have necessarily come down this journey and gone down this route had I have not started to believe that I could. And belief is huge. You know, belief is something that I've realized fairly recently has controlled my life for a very, very, very long time. Like I'm 32 this year in a few months' time. And it's scary to think that for 31 and a bit years, I've been dominated by things that happened when I was a child that have stayed there. But now I'm actively making the choice to rebel a little bit and say, actually, no, that is within my control to just say, stop. Open a new page of my book or get a new book and start a new chapter, start writing again. And it's never too late to do that. You know, I've spoken to some people recently who are sort of 50 plus, and they're terrified. You know, they're scared, and quite rightly so, because for such a long time they've known what they know to be true, and they feel like they're running out of time to start again. But actually, when you work through that process and come out the other side, it's so rewarding and so self-powerful that it's, yeah, I can't even think of a word to summarize that right now. But it's just it's a feeling of almost ecstasy and satisfaction. It's, yeah, it's hard to describe. But hopefully that answers the question. I kind of forgot what it was halfway through while I was talking, to be honest.
I think it does. I think it does. And you spoke about believing in ourselves and then going for something, because what you said about I could take on this journey because I believed I could, and I think that's so powerful. So many people would just not take that first step because they would want to have the evidence first and then believe in themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
But if we can flip it around, just how you suggested, then it's going to be so much easier.
I think a lot of people tend to use logic to make decisions. Myself, I'm overly feelings based. Like I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. Everything in life has some form of sentiment, even if it doesn't. Like I can create sentiment for something just because I'm I'm that feelings based, I'm that feelings orientated, which isn't a bad thing. That's something I've learned to accept. You know, it was one of those things that set me apart from people, because as opposed to, you know, in meetings when people would say, I think this, I think this, I think this, and I'm the one at the back with my hand halfway up going, I feel this way. So, you know, I was different from that perspective as well. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that when we really hone in, the biggest step and the hardest step is always the first step. And people often say when it comes to asking for help, that asking for help is the hardest part. I disagree. I think the step is the one before that that's the hardest one, which is accepting that you need it. That's my experience of that. But yes, I agree.
Yes. Yes. I see where you're coming from. Accepting that we need help would definitely come before asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, accepting that would be the first step. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a little light bulb go off for you, which is great.
Yes.
That was really nice to see.
Yes. That's beautiful. So much emphasis on accepting where we are, because so many of us, and I'm guilty of that too, we spend so much time fighting and negotiating the as is, where we are and how things are, because we want something different. We want more. We want to be more. We want to do more.
Mhm.
But if we can all start accepting where we are and how things are now and live in the present, just how you are suggesting we do, well, life would be so much more fulfilling and so much more joyous.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's one of the things that I've been reflecting on that quite a bit recently with, you know, there's a lot of people in the world right now, which understandably, who want to create change,
Mm.
but they're trying to create, in my opinion, they're trying to create change from history, which is fine. Like we learn from the past, of course we do. But the more we're present now, the more we can work together as opposed to fight against each other to make those things happen. You know, it's a very firm belief that I have. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the more we're present in the now, in the moment now of what's happening in a global pandemic situation, you know, this is the time when we should be pulling together. This is the time when we should be saying, do you know what, let's kick coronavirus up the arse. You know, it's the time when we should be doing that. And I find it really sad when we see people fighting against each other when we should be working together to make this place a better place to live. You know, when we can do that, we have the power to do that. We've just got to be present in the now and figure it out together.
Yeah, so true. So
Thank you.
true. Hmm. So talk to us a little bit about the purpose. We have talked about the fulfillment quite a bit.
Mhm.
Talk to us a bit more about the purpose. How can we make sure, or how can we start living a life with purpose?
It's a wonderful question. And the purpose, the reason I love the word purpose is because every single person on this planet is different. So purpose means something completely different to every single person. It's one of the questions that a lot of people say, you know, like yourself, how do we find the purpose? But a lot of people, when they're asking for help, tend to phrase it a little bit differently. They say, how do you find out what my purpose is for me so that I can start doing it? And actually, we need to reverse that question. You know, I'm as a coach, I'm here as a guide. I'm here to help you dig deep, and I'm here to find the answers within yourself, but I'm not going to find them on your behalf. You know, I'm going to help you figure it out for yourself, because no one knows you better than yourself. And who knows what's stored back there? Who knows what's stored in our subconscious? It's only when we start asking the right questions and participating in the right activities and experiences that we can start to draw that to the surface. And when you draw that to the surface, you, like I said before, you bring back the values and the purpose and you bring them together, and then you find life. You find what you're here to do. You find what you're meant to do, you know, what you're born to do. Potentially, it depends on how you look at it. But personally, I know I was born to help people. I know I'm here to help people have a better life and to inspire people. And I've known that from a very young age. I just never did anything about it until now, because I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I was worth doing that. So when you come from a place where you don't believe in yourself, the first step is to accept yourself and then build from there.
Mm. So would you say that our purpose is something that we are born with? Is it something that we decide for ourselves? Is it about being somebody? Is it about doing something? How do you see purpose?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. um, when we're born, obviously you have a personality in there somewhere, but that's going to develop and build based on who you meet, experiences you go through, etc. But at our core, we are who we are, and that builds consciously and subconsciously. So coming from a place of birth, we won't know it at that time because we don't have the consciousness to comprehend that. But the older you get, that's where you come to asking the questions of who are you, and you can say, I'm kind, I'm friendly, I'm happy, I'm funny, whatever it might be. That's the adjectives that create who we are. So I believe that's the birth part. In terms of creating, that's 100% in our control. I know at my core, for example, using the adjectives I just used, I'm a kind, I'm a helpful person, and that's just who I was born to be. That is something I am. That's something I've have in the past tried to change because I felt like it was a weakness, but then I came around and I was like, do you know what, it's me. I just need to be okay with that and find a way to be okay with that. I'm also a very selfless person. I had people throughout my life say, you need to be more selfish, you need to focus on you, number one. And I never understood it because selfish to me was a negative thing. Selfishness to me was arrogance and cockiness and all these kind of bad words or bad words that are associated with it. Whereas actually, when you find healthy selfishness, you can then start to figure out the kind of person you want to be. And that's combined with who you are, because ultimately you can change that if you wanted to, but I don't think anyone really wants to change who they are. But then you can build on that. So you can create the vision that you want yourself to be and work towards that. So I do think it's a combination of everything. You are who you are, but you have the power to change your mindset, to change your beliefs, to change your fears. And that comes with a lot of work and a lot of determination, but you can do it if you want it. If you want it, that's the main driver, I think, to get yourself to where you want to be and who you want to be.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. Thank you for clarifying that. Would you say
Okay.
that there are purposes that are bigger, better, worthier than other purposes in the world?
No. Not in the slightest. No, I think whatever purpose you want to create for yourself is the one that matters, because everyone's different. I personally, I really dislike the system of hierarchy. It's one of the reasons I didn't enjoy necessarily, as much as I did enjoy my job, I didn't like working for companies. I didn't like that there was always someone above and below me, or to the side of me. I didn't like this kind of
The pyramid.
concept. Yeah, exactly. And as much as, like, I think I said at the start, one of my beliefs used to be that we existed to be told what to do and how to be and all this kind of stuff. And that's where that feeds into me. Working for those companies, I didn't disenjoy it because I find the good in everything that I do. But in hindsight, it wasn't for me. I didn't want to have someone above me telling me what to do. But at the same time, I didn't want to be above someone else telling them what to do. And that's one of the reasons why I never strived to be a manager or anything like that, because I didn't want to be that person, which is a lot of my experience around those sort of corporate and non-corporate types of industries.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for emphasizing that because it is very easy to look at other people and see the work that they are doing or who they are being and think, oh, they are worthier or they are bigger or better
Mm-hmm.
than we are, and what we do and who we are being doesn't matter enough. It is very easy to get into that
Yeah,
comparison and put ourselves down.
I agree. And a lot of people that I've spoken to, a lot of self-confidence issues stem from that. It stems from having that person who's in control of a certain aspect, which then controls other aspects of life. If you have the kind of boss at work who is a boss as opposed to a leader, I'm lucky enough that I've experienced both. But when you have someone who is a boss and they're telling you what to do, they're giving you advice to a certain extent as opposed to guiding you, then that can become quite detrimental. And the result of that was outside of work. I wasn't happy. So that affected my relationship. It affected my friendships. It affected my life. So it's amazing how just one aspect, if you change that, it affects
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So true. So true. What would you say to people who are looking for this life purpose? They're trying to find life purpose, or they're trying to find the purpose in their life and they don't really know where to look.
Initially, it's probably going to sound a little bit contradictory, but initially I would say stop. Just stop. Because when we start looking, a lot of people initially will turn to Google or their friends or people they know. And all that's going to do is throw up situations and stories, which isn't a bad thing if it inspires you. But at the same time, we do need to just take a moment of pause to start learning what our story is. And that's not just the story from what you've created so far, it's the story of right now. And I genuinely believe from my own experience, the more you search, the more you look, the more you're not going to find it. And actually, when you just stop and start living life day to day and analyzing what parts of your day make you happy, what parts of your day not necessarily make you unhappy, but don't give you satisfaction or don't give you a positive feeling, then you know what to prioritize, you know where the balance needs to come from. But yeah, one of the things I would highly recommend is keep a journal, and not a journal as in dear diary, today I did. Keep a diary of at 10 a.m.
Yep.
smiley face, I felt good because X reason. At 4 p.m. sad face, I felt this because. So always having the feeling and the why. And when you start with that, you can then look back and reflect. I tend to do this on a weekly-ish basis. I look back and I reflect of, cool, those things make me happy. Typically on a Tuesday, I seem to have a habit on Tuesdays of having breakfast at 10 o'clock and just being like, oh, I'm loving life right now. Food is the best thing ever. And then that habit makes me happy. So I know that on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, if I have breakfast at that time for some reason, I get a kick of happiness. So I think reflection, there's a lot to be said for reflection and just pausing and just being in the now.
You remind me of a client that I worked with probably a year ago, maybe a couple of years now. And he had come to me for, can you help me find my life purpose?
Mm-hmm.
The first client I had who wanted me to help them with their life purpose. And we did some work. And actually, what we found out, or rather, what he found out, because I was just facilitating as a coach, was that he was already living his life purpose. Because that was a life that he loved. He had created that life, and it was so beautiful to see him understand that he didn't have to go somewhere or be someone else to find that purpose, and he was living it every day.
That's fantastic.
Yes, I would say that that was one of the most beautiful experiences I had as a coach.
Yeah, you can see that. Like you can see that you're emotionally attached to that. That's fantastic. It's really nice to see.
Yes. So Carla, thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us, how can people work with you and experience some of this goodness for themselves?
It's a great question. So to be honest, just come and talk to me. Come and chat to me. Let's connect and we'll have a conversation and go from there. Futuristically, I am looking at starting up some workshops and some classes. I'm still working on the process of what they're going to be. I'm a huge advocate of comfort and relaxation and just taking time, as opposed to work-life balance, flip that on its head, have a life-work balance, and figuring out in life what helps you to just zone out. So I'm currently working towards workshops and programs that will encourage people and help people to find what works best for them, and also focusing on things like finding your values and finding your purpose. Those are things that I believe are very strong as a group activity. So they're things I'm working towards in the future, but for right now, just come talk to me, come connect, and we can take it from there.
And where can people find you?
I do have a website, which is carlabarber.com. That is right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it co.uk? No, I did buy .com. So it's carlabarber.com, as well as on Facebook. Add me as a friend. That's probably the best place, I would say. I do have a Facebook page as well, but that's more just to kind of inspire and put posts up. Whereas to connect, I would say add me as a friend. And yeah, let's chat.
And we look forward to finding out all about your workshops when they are ready.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch.
Well, when we finish this conversation, will you kindly leave all your links just underneath this video so that we have everything in one place?
Of course. Yeah, definitely.
Before we let you go, Carla, what is one big message you want to share with our audience today?
Oh, just the one.
Just okay, you can have two if you
want.
want.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was more just thinking which one. I think for myself to share with everyone is don't be afraid to find out who you really are. The process can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, it can cause all kinds of emotions, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, that's part of our nature. So embrace it, embrace life, embrace what life chucks at you, embrace the decisions that you make, just be you and figure out who that is, as opposed to surviving. You know, I'm a big fan of this phrase that's around at the moment of be alive and live, as opposed to survive. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a beautiful ending to such a delightful conversation. Thank you so much, Carla.
No, thank you so much for giving me the space to have a conversation with you. It's been really good.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you to everybody who has joined us live. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Leah. And thank you to everybody who's going to catch us up on the replay. Thank you so much.
You.
And Carla, once again, thanks a lot for coming and sharing your wisdom with the audience. I really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome.